All right, so we're going to very quickly go over recommender systems. Recommender systems and RAG and search, they truthfully all deserve their own course. There's a lot of depth to all of them, but mainly I'm here to sort of introduce you to how you could use a vector DB to accomplish these tasks. And so today we're going to talk about recommender systems and a sort of creative way to use vector DBs for recommending articles for particular user profiles. And so I'm first going to instantiate my index if you haven't already done that. I have here I have 5 user profiles that I've generated using GPT. And so the first thing about recommender systems, right? Most recommender systems are going to rely on, especially in terms of content, are going to rely on quality user embeddings. These are embeddings in the same sense of the word that we've talked about beforehand. These are embeddings of users that represent anything that is meaningful about the user. It encodes their previous, site habits, reading habits, their behavior in general, and to some extent, they can be used to predict what the user will do next. And so they encode all meaningful information about the user or enough to be able to make your recommender system. On the other hand, you have content embeddings. These are embeddings for the content that's going to be that you want to recommend to the user. And we've already covered that in depth. In our case, content embeddings will be embeddings of news articles. And so any recommender system algorithm are going to depend. Any good recommender system algorithm in modern systems is going to depend on quality user embeddings and quality content embeddings. And so, building quality user embeddings is tough. That is a very difficult problem. We will not be covering it here in this course, but we can show how we can do some very basic embeddings and be able to retrieve some relevant results for a user. So you can read through all these user profiles, but I'm going to zoom in here on this one. This one gave me the best results. Try the other ones. But we have a mid-level manager who starts the day with CNN business updates and international affairs, and then occasionally is commenting on articles and saving major stories to read later. So these user profiles at this point just a very simple text description of the user and what they like to read, who they are and what they like to read. In this case, what they do for a living and what they like to read. And so what we're going to do first is we're going to pull out that user profile, which is the last one in that list, and we're going to pass it in as the query to our search function, retrieve results. And that text description of that user is going to be embedded using our embedding model. And then we're going to use that to query over the documents in the database. And so we should get articles that match semantically with the user profile, in this case, the mid-level manager who starts today with business updates and international affairs. And so I'm going to run this cell. Here's our user profile. And some of these are okay, but the first result is pretty good. And so it's from CNN, which is good, CNN business updates. And it reads, as part of an effort to share the best practices for modern business among organizations across the globe. So it's not only a CNN business update, but it's a CNN business update. It's a CNN international business article. So it's talking about global business. That really hits at this CNN business updates and international affairs portion of the user profile. And so it's saying CNN is talking to some of the world's top executives in line with this, and it goes on. And so some of these, like the second or third, is still about CNN. This one's about politics. This one's about the head of a coffee empire that now boasts over 12,000 stores, so it's still business related. And so these are pretty decently relevant for a very quick and I would say elementary user embedding, right? For a very synthetic example scenario. But this is an example of how you can use a vector DB as a recommender to build a recommender system, a very simple one. And again, the part that's not really covered here is building a good user embedding that you can match up with content in your vector DB. And that's not covered here in this course, but it's definitely something I encourage if you are interested in building a recommender system that you research in depth.